Hello everybody, back on the boring bike videos I'm afraid. No electronics for me at the moment, but I think in previous videos I've been constantly complaining about the brakes on my bike because I noticed it again last Monday going down a long hill about 1.5 miles long and braking constantly all the way down. I noticed, particularly on the front brake, that I was losing all braking ability virtually on that brake, and it's a bit alarming at times, but anyway, I also notice now that the way to get around this problem is to release the brake briefly for a few seconds and then reapply it, and you get your full power back for a while until it goes again. But that doesn't seem like a particularly good solution. It seems a bit strange to me, but anyway, so I think it was, last Monday I'd had that last experience. Anyway, coincidentally that evening I got a comment on my previous video I'd done about the brakes, or whatever I was talking about, can't remember. But, and this person said to me, "You're experiencing brake fade," which had crossed my mind, that obviously the brake pads are heating up and losing their ability to provide proper braking. And I've only heard of brake fade in relation to cars, disc brakes, and modern cars don't seem to suffer that problem. But anyway, which begs the question, what is the point of disc brakes if they're not as good as the old-fashioned brakes like I've got on my old mountain bike? And I've never experienced any problems with those brakes coming down hills. So I set about, after this comment telling me about brake fade, to do a bit of research on disc brakes in bikes. And that's when I more or less discovered that there are different types of brake pads available. And I'm fairly sure that the Chinese only put the cheapest possible brake pads in your bike when you buy it. So I thought I'd go and look around on eBay and the internet, and it seems there's various different compositions of pads you can get, and the ones that seem to suffer least brake fade are some sort of metal composition pads. I know nothing about this, so I came across some in Halford's, Shimano ones, and they wanted about £15, but of course you'd have to pay postage on that. Can't get them locally. And I found the same ones on eBay for £15 free delivery, I think they were. And approximately 6 days later they've just arrived, and this is what I have just had delivered. And they're Vibrex Shimano, and it says UK manufactured. I always thought Shimano was Japanese. I don't know anything about it. So this is what I've got. I've got two pads which I've got to now fix into my bike, which shouldn't be too hard. And I'm not sure I'm going to bother boring you watching me take off the caliper and put these pads in, but what I will do is then try it locally. I don't want to go up to this previous hill that I was up at the moment because it's freezing cold and at the moment it's only 4.8 degrees outside, so I want to wait for it to be a bit milder before I do that ride again, because that would be the ideal way to test the new brake pads out. I think the only disadvantage from what I can see and reading on the internet and stuff like that, is that these, what are they called? Semi-metallic disc pads. Semi-metallic, that's what they're called. I think they're inclined to squeal a bit, so from what I've read, but what's a bit of squealing here and there. But if they work better, that'll be an advantage over the old ones. At the moment I've only bought one set because I didn't want to spend twice as much money without trying one set out first on the front brakes. So what I'll do now is I'll get them put into the bike, and then I may fix the camera on the bike and do that ride again down the hill and see what the results are. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've taken the caliper off the front, and these are the old pads which look different to the new ones. So they're different composition, obviously. So I'll just go about and install them and do the various adjustments, I suppose. Okay, so everything's installed and everything's tightened up. Took me about half an hour to do that, I reckon, getting everything perfectly aligned. If I spin the wheel round, there's a little bit of scraping. That's due to the distortion in the disc, obviously. But if I really spin it and operate the brake, I've got loads of braking. Of course, it's a different matter when you're riding down a hill. But that's the next step now, to ride it down the hill. So, but it won't happen today, it's too cold. Okay, so I'm up at the top of the hill and I'm going to test these brakes out. And we're in a little place called Hyuhome. So just wait for the car to pass and I'll pull out. Right, and it is not warm up here today. I thought it was quite warm when I left home, but cold winds when you're riding. And I've got about a mile and a half of downhill to test these front brakes. Past the school. Hope the camera doesn't fall off. It's a new camera mount, so it could all end in tears. Who knows? If nothing else, you get to see some of the countryside near where I live, about 3 miles from home roughly. Braking on the front only at the moment, no squealing as yet. This is a really fairly steep bit, downhill bit coming up. Trying to keep the pressure on the front brake more than the back one, just to see how they perform. Don't like going too fast down hills. I haven't got the confidence I used to have. I used to do a lot more riding. I take it fairly steady at the moment, going down this bit. Not like I used to be on my old bike. I remember the fastest I ever did, which probably isn't that fast for some people, was 37 miles an hour down a hill. If you come off at that speed, I think you're dead basically. I'm only doing 6.5 miles an hour. Just haven't got the confidence to go any faster. And that's a good touch for the brakes. No brake fade yet on the front brake. I hope I haven't spoken too soon. Coming up to a bit of a one-way system here, traffic lights. I'll probably go red by the time I get to them. Going at this speed. Can't wait to get this over with, get home. It's too cold. I'm a fair weather cyclist. Yep, red lights. So I just got to sit here till they change. Oh well. It's all going fairly well so far. Got about a couple of miles, I suppose, till I can get home. Another thing about not going fast down these hills is because of all the potholes. And when you got the sun in your eyes, it's hard to see them. Here we go then. Anyway, I forgot to say, the name of this hill is Taoci, and probably because there's more toads here. Although I've never met one yet, coming down this hill, or going up it. It hasn't rained for a while, but there's a lot of water on the roads. Well, I think my opinion is that these brakes are performing better than the last ones. This is where I would have noticed the brake fade by now. Well, that's what I did last time anyway. I think I can afford to speed up now. 16 miles an hour. Now we got the worst of the hills over with. I think it's a bit inconclusive really. I'll have to ride it for a few more rides. And if these brakes pads do seem better, I'll probably get some for the back wheel. My hands are absolutely frozen. I don't like wearing gloves because you can't feel the various controls like the gear shifters and whatever. Looking forward to the bloody spring. but we're only at the end, towards the end of January, so it could be a lot of bad weather till then. I was watching the local West Country news last week, and they said on this date 40 years ago we had temperatures in Gloucestershire of -20. Hard to believe when it's 8 degrees today. -20. And there's heavy snow as well. Some villages were cut off completely, had to have food lifted in by helicopter. And the day after that temperature of -20, which I do remember vividly because I had my first digital thermometer. I had the probe out of the window and it was -20 where I was living. Anyway, the day after, it never went above -10. It's hard to believe that we had temperatures like that and weather like that when we've had a fairly mild winter so far. It's really hard to see with the sun in my eyes. I've got to turn right here somewhere, but I can hardly see where I am. Right. Okay, now a very steep bit. To get right down into almost bottom gear to get up here. And the motor struggles. It wouldn't get up here on its own without me pedalling. The dear narrow bit. And wave to the car driver for letting me come through. Don't know what this place is called. I think this is called Bourne Lane anyway, along here. There used to be a pub here on the right years ago when I moved here first. But it's long gone, like a lot of the pubs. There's at least two that I know of near me that have closed the last few years. Well, I think everything's performing fairly well, as it should do. Brakes and gears and whatever. I think I've done about 360 miles now on this bike, which is not that many compared to some people. But that was one I bought at the end of September, I think it was.
And
now this is dodgy along here, there's so many ruts and potholes. Of course they'll never get fixed because it's not a priority, country lanes like this. You can see the cameras moving a bit. trying to straighten it up. It's better. And this is nasty bit as well. It's really quite a steep bit. With lots of potholes. And I never like coming down here, especially when it's muddy and wet and slippery. But it just avoids going on the main road to get back to my place. Oh, even the camera hasn't fallen off yet, which is always a bonus. I wouldn't drive along here, it's just too narrow. If you've got a reasonably big car like I've got. Oh, no, nearly home now. And it's nice to have some sun as well. Because they did forecast possible rain this afternoon, but obviously not yet. And tomorrow it's going to be really cold with a north wind. This is my last chance, I think, to go out for a few days. There's some goats along here. Don't know if I'll see them today. Where are the goats? Okay, we got a bit of squealing there from the front brake. That's nice. Reminds me of that film, Deliverance. The only decent film that Burt Reynolds was in. Squeal Like a Pig. If you remember that film, where they're whitewater rafting, these group of friends in the hillbilly countries. There's the goat. Hello, goat. Don't know if you saw the goat there. And I think I saw those two people when I was riding along here earlier. Nearly home. Get down into low gear now, I shall need it. Here we are, home, sweet or not so sweet home. I think that was a fairly successful ride, but only time will tell really. But there we are, home. Okay, bye for now.